Yesterday, I heard the statement that it does not really matter what we do here, as when we move on, we are all light anyways. Do you have anything to share about this? Yeah, I would say that everything, as the unique individuations of source that we are and are eternally, everything that we create has a cause and effect. Everything that we create ripples out to varying degrees, shapes, and sizes, ripples out into the quantum field to be participated in, far beyond the scope of this tiny, tiny, tiny little fractal of Earth and the tinier fractal of the individual human experience, right? So every thought, word, action, feeling has a impact, we'll say, on the all that is, because all expressions of creation to have ever been created are woven to some degree of presence, if you will, within every single fractal of existence. So it's not to say that one will ever perhaps access all of that information, if you will, in any given experience or moment or 0-point connection. And yet for the overall system of divine law and order and the order of creation to be able to know itself in infinite ways and hold an accounting system of that, is for everything to be that has been created from the spark, as a spark of pure prime source creator, to be in some form of communication and participation, because it is a one system. It is source, the source of all creation, fractalizing itself as the witnessing presence of itself fractalizing to infinitely create anew and infinitely express anew, and to have, and it does have the bandwidth, right, to have the recall and the reflection, mirrored reflection of all that participating at all times, which I know is a bit mind-blowing. And why wouldn't it be? Because the mind is a finite system, right? A finite system constructed here as the earth incarnate to be able to hold a specific bandwidth of participation and keep us sort of in this illusionary framework until it no longer does. And that's when we dissolve the ego, right? Which the mind doesn't explode into a million pieces and go away. The mind integrates into, what it was originally intended, or from my vantage point, how it was originally intended to participate in the human experience. And is when we fully dissolve that identification as the, as the individuation, or as the ego, or as, separate of the all that is, that we begin to open ourselves to a greater embodied knowing of what that means, right? Of what it means to have infinite systems of creation, infinitely creating anew in every now moment. And even that expression of it or example of it is very much in order to give a perspective here through linear time, because as we know, there is no time, generally speaking, outside of this experience. Now, that's not necessarily true. I've been called out on that a few times. There are other systems of creation that do use a similar, somewhat similar matrices of expression to encapsulate the consciousness and to participate in a kind of in a linear way of existence, if you will. Yet the earth experience is unique to itself. This human experience is very unique as the human experience. So all that to say, from my vantage point in this now moment and what is coming through, it could never be that how we participate and what we participate and what we do here would be of no significance. It's not to the significance, perhaps, that that we imagine it to be or perceive it to be through the linear mind's construct. But every fractal of creation is honored and seen as a beautiful expression of source. Some, of course, holding a higher and more exalted bandwidth of the unified flow of one, others not, maybe not so, and yet they're beyond the frequencies of judgment and beyond the frequencies of separation that we so immerse ourselves here in the human experience. It's just energy. It's simply energy, existing, participating, creating, right? And then there are certain constructs of divine law and order that and collectives and beings that are, purposed for the keeping of that divine law and order and of the flow of the law of one, if you will, or unity, that step into certain creational experiences and matrices to bring things back into balance and harmonization if it begins to have too big of a ripple effect in sort of a, for all intents and purposes, destructive way, right? Which is why the Earth experience came into almost what could be perceived as somewhat of an encapsulation for a period of time, where information was still being, of course, received and beaconed out and threaded through the infrastructure of the spark of all creation so that it would be accounted for or recorded, right? But there were certain measures put in place so that the bandwidth of duality and polarity and warring wouldn't have the amount of impact, sort of what I guess we could say negative impact or disruptive impact to the creational flow of the different systems of creation that surround this experience. Because again, everything is one. And so everything is constantly in communication. And the inception point of a thought or an action or a belief or, a system of, the inception point has the strongest impact, right? And then from there, it's sort of like when you drop a stone in a pond, the ripple out becomes, more and more and more and more and more and more and more subtle, right? More diluted as it gets further and further and further out. Yet every single droplet of water in that pond or in that body of water knows exactly the fact that that stone fell in the pond and has the communication of where it is in the pond and how it and who threw it and right? Because it's a unified field. The consciousness of water is part, is a unified field. So similarly, we can think of all that we are in the constant flow of creating. Our thoughts are a creation, our words, our feelings, our actions, they're all participating and bringing, and they're just energy. So if we are channeling our consciousness into really joy frequencies and love frequencies, and I love humanity and I love everything about humanity, and the quote unquote good and the bad and the this and that, that's radiating out. It brings the invitation to bring energy to a higher bandwidth of consciousness, right? If we are incessantly in, fear patterns, we're beaconing that out. We send out an invitation. And depending on where any given individuation is, they, if they're also, diving into that, then they're going to resonate with that, right? And it creates more and more and more and more of that resonance field. So the more humans that are focusing on peace and creating through peace and joy and all these more higher vibrational bandwidths of consciousness, you know, the more the whole begins to, they can either rise to it or, you know, drop away from it, right? But everything has a relationship to the overall creational field of one. Yeah.